All right, it's that time, our weekly financial forecast. We're here with Tim Fitzwilliams, as always, from Fitzwilliams Financial. Tim, we're going to focus on retirement here today. We're going to talk both about how to set yourself up and maybe the psychological elements to such a big step. That's where we start. What's the number one fear of most retirees?
Connor, the number one fear is running out of money.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I bet. And that, obviously that's cut and dry, right? Mm-hmm. Because you no longer have that income coming in like you're used to when you're in those earning years, right? So how do you make sure you don't run out of money?
Well, knowing how much you have saved up is a key component, and really what the distribution rate can be of that. There's like a common rule out there, say the 4% rule, but that might not work for everyone. So the real answer is, can I retire with what I've saved up and replace my income so that I make the same amount retired as I did while I was working?
Yeah, so once you're retired and you go to make a big purchase and you punch in that credit card number or you send that check off, what's different about those big expenditures once you're retired than when you were working, just in terms of how you feel about it, how you mentally kind of approach it?
Sure, there's definitely a psychological component because market volatility can affect that. If the market's down, you might not feel so comfortable in getting that big purchase, especially if you don't have like a very balanced portfolio and you're really just kind of in the market trying to make the most that you can to pay for your bills and whatnot. So then when it comes to having fun, like going on a cruise or going on vacation and there's market volatility, you may not. So there is a psychological effect, an emotion. Although we like to remove emotion, there truly is an emotional decision-making pattern that occurs when you're retired. You look at the money different because what you saved up is what you got.
And even if you've done everything right, let's talk sequence of returns. How does timing sort of impact when and how you're able to retire?
Absolutely. That mathematical principle is extremely important when you're retired because it says when you have a string of numbers over a period of time, depending on where the volatility occurs in that string of numbers will determine the end result. So in simple terms, if you have two people that are both investing differently, but they have an average of, say, 8% over the 30-year time frame, one could have double the amount as the other. And that's because the volatility might have came in at a different time, possibly even earlier. So when you retire, looking at the amount of volatility you're willing to expose yourself to it can be a very important decision so that you can have more later on or that it can last.
The smarter you are, the more careful you are, you can sort of mitigate those timing risks that are maybe a little more out of your control.
That's the goal, right? Is to have a blended portfolio, talk to fiduciary, try to look at those balances, see what risk you need to take, and what you can do to try to at least make sure your bills are taken care of from the money that you saved up. Whether you do that in the market or out of the market, that's the goal.
All right, Tim Fitzwilliams, Fitzwilliams Financial. Hey, are we going to see you next Tuesday?
Yes.
I'll put you in the calendar then. That's every Tuesday in our 4 p.m. news. If you have questions you want answered, financial forecast at 13newsnow.com.